So spending time with God, building your prayer life, is building a relationship with God. In order to build your relationship with God, that includes learning to understand Him, how He communicates, quieting yourself enough to listen for Him, to hear Him, in which that's something that I'm definitely still learning. And then learning discernment on when it is Him that's speaking to you, and humbling yourself before God. Because there was a time, and I still struggle with this just a tad bit, but sometimes you will think that you hear God, but you can convince yourself that an instruction is from God because it aligns with your own desires. Ask God to build your spirit of discernment and align yourself with God and His desires for your life versus your own. The more I spend time with God, especially last year, I learned that God wants us to have the best, and sometimes we are so stubborn, and I'm speaking for myself, that we want what we want and God actually has better for us. Sometimes we so stuck in our ways and resistant to change, and basically which is resisting God, that we cause a lot of delays and uncomfortability in our lives. I've learned that a lot of things in our life, we do not have to go through them. If we spend time with God and follow His direction. When I first started taking my relationship with God more serious, I had nothing but time. So all that time, I used it to spend with God. And He showed me myself, as I said before. And when I say show me myself, He showed me where I had idols. He showed me where I had pride. He showed me where I was entitled, as if I had to have blessings, or I had to receive blessings. Oh, Jesus. Because I was spending time with Him. But God also showed me that I'm very loving and genuine, and He showed me that I am still valuable without material things. That I did not need to have things to be worthy. That He blesses me because He wants to and not because He has to. Because He's a sovereign God. I have nothing to prove. He loves me regardless. I also learned with spending time with God what love truly is. So it's more than just spending time with God to receive blessings. It's about learning who you are. I had no true identity before developing a relationship with God. Whoever I associated myself with, what they like, I like. What they thought was fun, I thought was fun. And I just was like low-key a follower. If that makes sense. I never really stuck to what I like. I wasn't true to myself. I wasn't exposed to a lot, and so I adapted and I learned very fast. So then I guess I can say when people started seeing me for me who I truly am, I didn't think me I was enough at that time, and I had a big fear of actually being seen. So I ran. So that's so funny because I was so contradicting myself. I was looking for someone to understand me, but then I ran from it at the same time. But spending time with God led me to self-discovery and a love for myself that I never have experienced before. I spiritually awakened. Spending time with God exposed the enemy to me also. He showed me every area the enemy attacked since I was a little girl. And and I was not aware. The way I awakened to it was out of this world. Like my whole life and everything the enemy did came to me. It was like a flash. It was like a daydream, and I just saw everything. And I was like, whoa. The enemy tried to steal my voice, making me believe that the lie that I had a speech impediment. That because my opinions or the way that I articulate things were usually different from others, I should remain quiet. He stole my confidence, causing me to have social anxiety or again dim my light. He delayed me from getting to where I am today, and I realized that majority of my life was an illusion. And in gaining that wisdom, I was able to pray differently because I learned what to ask God for, and I asked God to give me my voice back, to give me my confidence back, to return what the enemy stole from me. You guys see that those things were not material. So don't think that enemy always just taking material things from me. He try to steal your essence of who God created you to be. So I asked God to guide me back to me, to who He created me to be. I repented and apologized to God for putting things before Him. I asked for discernment. I asked God to fight the enemy for me because the battle is not mine. I asked God to uproot my heart, take all those seeds the enemy planted and turn them into His fruits. I prayed to God for healing, to protect me through the healing, because I knew what would come with it. The healing is not pretty. A lot of people don't want to feel that pain or face themselves or take accountability for the fact that although you are a great person, you have a good heart, but you still did wrong at some point in your life. So you're not going to heal if you don't feel. Although healing may not be pretty and it's a lifelong journey, as you heal, it becomes a beautiful journey. Allow God to transform you and renew your mind. What also comes um, through healing are tests. And I ask God to mentally and emotionally prepare me for those tests. Give me the spiritual awareness of the tests and the strength that only He could give me to pass those tests. Yesterday, I was driving back from my mom's house, and I was listening to sermons in the car. And as I'm listening to those sermons, I was talking to God, and my chest started to get heavy. And First Peter 5:7 kept coming to my head, and I was like, "This is a familiar verse. I know this verse." And then it hit me, and I was like, "Oh, that's the verse that says, cast your cares onto Him because He cares for you." I definitely said it in my own words, so look it up that verse if you want to get the exact word. I couldn't hold it anymore. I couldn't hold it anymore. My chest was so heavy. I just started crying, and I told God that I was trying to be positive and strong, and I just couldn't anymore. And I gave it all over to Him. My past, disappointment, failure, loss of people that I dearly love, my mistakes, self-sabotage. I didn't want to be strong anymore, and I didn't have to, is what God was teaching me in that moment. So my heart wasn't heavy anymore if I gave it over to God. His peace came over me. Be anxious for nothing. So I learned that was me releasing control. And as we are persevering, when I asked God for a Bible verse this morning, He gave me Philippians 3:13. And Philippians 3:13, hold on a second, I remember it. It basically said, forget what is behind and strain towards what is ahead. Now, if that ain't perseverance, I don't know what to tell y'all. But I got off place. Sorry. But I don't want to forget this part. Matthew 6:33 says, "Seek His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." I said that in my own words too. Look up the Bible. Look it up in the Bible. When I do get out of my own way, God gives me things I never thought I could possibly imagine having. And I'll give you an example. I want to first make it clear that I'm not saying to not expect blessings, but what I'm saying is when your focus is on God and you're following and trusting His guidance and direction, the blessings is just going to come regardless. Remember, all these things shall be added onto you. Keep your focus on God and everything will come to you. So the one thing I would say, fasting. Fasting is going to be required in spending time with God and building your prayer life. It's how you get closer to Him. It's how you receive wisdom. And sometimes it's how you receive some blessings. I fast a lot. Even if I don't receive instructions from God to fast, I still fast. Majority of the blessings I have gotten and deliverance I received, it came from fasting. I fasted for it. So there's different types of fasting. I've probably done them all at this point. But if you're fasting for the first time, just ask God what fast He wants you to go on, how He wants you to do the fast, and when. So the beginning of this year, God told me to fast, and I did. And He instructed me to do the Daniel 21-day fast. And I read Daniel chapter 10, and I got into the fast. I did it. I didn't know why He wanted me to fast at the time, but I just followed His instructions. The very last day of my fast, I received a check in the mail. It was very unexpected. I was not expecting it. I cried because I was like, this is why you want me to fast. And I asked God, what do you want me to do with that check? He directed me to the salon suite that I'm in now. And I questioned God for a bit because I didn't think that I could afford it. So I started looking at places that was cheaper, and this was me partially following God's instruction and trying to get to appease my own desires and what I thought will work for me. God convicted me. He told me, He said, go where I told you to go. That was God's quote unquote words. He said, go where I told you to go. He told me how He wanted me to decorate and everything. And that's the greatest blessing I can say that I had to this day. I am so proud. I am truly blessed. And also spending time with God gave me the courage to come on here and to post these videos for you guys. It doesn't matter how many views. I'm following His instructions. Last year, God had to prepare me. He had to rid me of discouragement and shame because I won't be bold enough to come on and speak because the word can be very cool. People have a lot of opinions. But again, when you give it all over to God, He will be your peace. He will protect you and remind you of how much you are loved.